Welcome, everyone. I'm Debbie House, Executive Director of Content for Retail Touchpoints, and I'm here with Parinda Muley, who's the VP of Innovation and Business Development at Macys. Thanks so much for joining us, Parinda.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we'll just jump right into it. Can you just fill us in first a little bit on your role, VP of Innovation and Business Development at Macys, how long you've been with the company, and kind of a definition of what you're doing at Macys?
Absolutely. So I've been at Macys for a little under 2 years, and this group is actually fairly new. It's about 2 years old, and essentially I joined when they were conceptualizing this idea of having a dedicated innovation and business development team.
Okay.
And the idea was really focused on how do we continue to stay relevant as a retailer? How do we continue to move quickly in an environment where things tend to go a little slowly, and how do we continue to stay where our customers are? So as a team, our focus has very much been on where do our customers hang out? Where do they spend their share of wallet? Where are they spending their energy? And does Macys have the right to participate in that space? That's the essential thesis around why this group exists and what we're trying to solve for.
All right, excellent. Thank you. So we're looking forward to you speaking at our Retail Innovation Conference, which is taking place May 6 to 8 in New York City. And so just to talk a little bit, if you can, in a little bit more detail about what do you see as the importance for Macys, for a company like Macys, of staying ahead of the innovation curve?
It's so interesting because I think Macys, along with many other companies that have such legacy and tradition, it's sometimes their greatest asset. Sometimes their greatest asset and sometimes their greatest downfall. And it can serve as such a roadblock when you're so ingrained in tradition and how things work. And I think a company like Macys that has such great leadership and has such great support to really think about what's next and how do we stay relevant as a company. And I think that was sort of what drove this group to exist. And I think it started with support from leadership and to really say that, we understand our tradition and our legacy, but let's use that as an asset to drive change and drive innovation. So when you think about Macys' asset, one of their strongest assets is their obvious real estate and national footprint. And second is its people. We have 130,000 employees. And when you start thinking about just those two, there's so many meaningful use cases around what can we do to drive new ways of thinking, new business models around even our existing assets. And I think that is why it's so relevant and it's so relevant for companies like Macys to start thinking differently, but they're at such an advantage because they have such deep-rooted assets that can really be used differently if you put the right mindset to them.
Yeah, very well said. So those things can be advantages and challenges, and it's great to see that Macys is stepping up to address those challenges. So at the Retail Innovation Conference, can you tell us a little bit about some of the innovation strategies that you're going to be highlighting?
Absolutely. So, I think 2018 was a really strong year for the innovation team, and we were really able to focus on a couple of our strategic pillars, one being around really redefining retail and saying, can we create disruptive models that are changing the way that we do business in our four walls? The second was really on, can we find white space opportunities that we're not playing in today, but we think we have the authority to play in? And third is really, is there a new distribution channel that we can create or leverage to really drive new economics and new revenue models? Now, they're not mutually exclusive, but it's the way that we've sort of positioned the team to start thinking about how do we ideate and how do we bring new ideas and new innovations to the forefront. And so a couple of the things that I'll highlight during the conference is one initiative that we launched last year was something called the Market at Macys, which is essentially at a very high level, a pop-up environment in our doors. But what's really different about what we're presenting to more digitally native brands that want access to brick and mortar that are not currently in our stores is what Macys does really well. And again, going back to the comment on our greatest asset is sometimes our space and our real estate and our footprint and our traffic, is that we have this national presence. And what we do really, really well is operations and logistics. So why not package that up in a very seamless way and be able to provide a turnkey solution for brands to say, come in for a month, come in for 6 months. We'll take care of everything from staffing to marketing to all of the fixtures and assets that you need to merchandise. And it makes it very easy for brands to say, you know what, I can't physically be in one location, but now I can, through Macy's, I can actually be in 5 because I don't have to be there, and all I have to do is ship my inventory to them, and they keep 100% of their sales. So it's really this concept of retail as a service that we launched in 12 doors and are looking to double that this year. So that is sort of one concept of really taking advantage of our assets, forcing our company to think differently and saying, you know what, it's not always about sales, but there's a different way that you can monetize service that we offer brands, and we're still bringing in something new for our customers. And we're kind of delivering on that promise of saying, we're going to continue to allow you to discover newness and freshness and keep that in our stores as part of our ability to stay relevant with our customers. So that's one concept. I think another concept that I intend to talk about is, as we are sort of studying the space, one area that's been very interesting to us was video commerce. And we know that more and more customers or just generally people are consuming content through video. And how do we start playing in that space? Do we have the authority to play in that space? And sort of tangentially, we were studying the influencer space and saying, you know what, there's something interesting that's happening with the influencer space, but we think it's actually more interesting in the micro influencer space because we think that there's a more authentic voice. So can we actually bring these two ideas together? And what would happen if we kind of created this new model that was sort of the intersection of the two? What was interesting about that was, again, we're saying, let's start this with our own employees. And can we make them ambassadors of our brand? Again, another great asset that we have is our people, 130,000 employees. So why not give them the tools to create content, to push to their own social networks, but give them the tools to create video content and to tag it and to share in the incentives of being able to talk and promote Macy's and Macy's products and let them do it in their own way. So this was really about taking off guardrails, which is very hard for some larger institutions that are very set in the way that they do marketing or the way that they activate campaigns. And we were saying, let's take off those guardrails and let's allow our employees to talk about Macy's in the way that they want to. And all of a sudden, the numbers, we started with a 20-person pilot. We're now at about 1,500 employees and looking to get to 10,000 by the end of the year. And you can imagine what comes next with, kind of deploying this to our most loyal customers. And all of a sudden, we've created a social selling force that's talking about Macy's in the most positive light and in just such different ways. And the numbers and metrics behind it have been staggering. I mean, conversion has been off the charts. And again, starting with such a small base and now kind of expanding it, it's been incredible to see how connected this group of or this community has become. And so it's things like that we're really thinking about. How do you create that new distribution channel? How do you start playing in spaces that we're not necessarily playing in today, but in a very unique way? And so those are some of the things that I'll be talking about at the conference.
That's awesome. I can tell that you're extremely passionate about what you're doing at Macy's, and we look forward to hearing, even more details about those strategies and other things that you're working on. So finally, just to wrap up, the Retail Innovation Conference definitely attracts a diverse group of retail executives across all different types of companies and industry segments. What do you believe, just real quick, that all different types of retailers can learn from Macy's approach to innovation?
I think there's a few things. I think one is it all starts from support from leadership. And if you don't have that, this will fail. I think there needs to be an openness to test new things in a faster way and in a way that it's okay to fail. And I think failure is really important to stress and to be able to say that, we use that as part of our learning and we iterate from what we learn from. And if there's that appetite to test and fail and try and take down some of the guardrails, I think that you all of a sudden open yourself to testing and just innovating and pushing the envelope on areas that you wouldn't necessarily or traditionally play in. I think what's interesting is I come from the media background, so I'm fairly new to retail, but I've always been in this innovation and business development function. And what's very interesting to see is as you start drawing parallels from different industries, everyone is competing for the same share. Your traditional competitors are no longer your traditional competitors, and your competitors have expanded to many other players in different industries. So everyone is kind of doing the same or trying to achieve the same thing. So if you don't let down some of those guardrails, and if you're not open to kind of understanding where the landscape is headed, you're just not going to position yourself to succeed in the future.
Fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing a few insights, just enough to get everyone very excited about coming to hear your session at the conference. We really appreciate you spending the time with us today.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you having me.
All right. So everyone else out there, join us at the Retail Innovation Conference, again, May 6 to 8. Go to retailinnovationconference.com to learn more. We look forward to seeing you there. Have a great day.